something, never lose it. Understand, little one? You must keep it safe, close to your heart. Let's dance, boys!
Alright, so the trailer for Bayonetta came out and everyone was...
Wait! What the fuck?! Bayonetta?! Fucking Bayonetta! Waste time!
That's Bayonetta!
Yeah,
That's Bayonetta!
baby!
That's Bayonetta!
Woo!
That's Bayonetta!
Are you having a problem here?
Wait!
Yeah.
No, it's Bayonetta! It's Bayonetta!
Pretty freaking excited if I don't say so myself. Being announced back in 2017 with scarcely any news on how development was processing, had many fans concerned as to whether or not the game had silently died. But now we can all breathe a sigh of relief because, well, there she is! And after watching a handful of reactions of the trailer on YouTube, I was surprised to see how many people were losing their minds over Bayonetta's return. I mean, in all honesty, I was right there with them. See? I'm right over there. Look at me. I would even go so far as to say that Bayonetta is in my top 10 favorite games of all time. It just makes me so happy to see her, and to know that she has another game coming out feels like catching up with a long-lost friend. So, in celebration of her third entry releasing on the Switch sometime later this year, I wanted to look back at some of her older appearances while reminiscing as to why Bayonetta is so beloved after all this time. So sit back, relax, grab a couple of snacks, and let's get on in style. Bayonetta was the third game created by former Capcom developers Clover Studios, renamed Platinum Games, with a goal to create the ultimate third-person action game. With most of the staff having experience working on games such as Beautiful Joe and Devil May Cry, it only made sense to play into their strengths. But instead of having some generic male protagonists that for the most part flooded the market back in 2009, they wanted a female lead to help the game stand out. I'll go more in depth into character design and presentation later in the video, but the director and story writer Hideki Kamiya wanted the core themes of Bayonetta to be sexiness and femininity. Using her sexuality to dominate and overcome her foes, and having a love for fashion and the theatrical, I can confidently say that they achieved their goal. Bayonetta has a distinct style and atmosphere that even today is hard to replicate, so for this to have come out on the 7th generation with all those manly man first-person shooters, this felt like a breath of fresh air. Is the game great? Absolutely. Is the game perfect? Absolutely not. The game still has a couple hiccups that plagued the industry back in the day when making the leap into HD, so of course I'll be tackling the good and the bad moving forward. Starting the game, we find ourselves in a graveyard where we see a nun with gams for days, and this sleazy Joe Pesci looking motherfucker named Enzo attending a funeral.
It looks like Humpty Dumpty's taking his last fall. Even old Eggman the Destroyer gets scrambled in the end, right?
It's been 17 days! I'm still trying to get out of here!
Hey, this is editing Mari, so apparently Eggman the Destroyer has nothing to do with Eggman from the Sonic series. It was just a name that Kamiya threw out there out of impulse, apparently. I can't seem to find the tweet confirming that, so I don't necessarily know how accurate that information is. So here's Eggman with Bayonetta legs. I really hope that does something for your life, because sure is making my day. During the ceremony, angels begin to descend from the sky, ready to claim Eggman's soul. But not before Bayonetta springs into action, opening up a portal to Wreck House. While slaughtering the angels before her, a demon by the name of Rodan emerges from Eggman's coffin ready to assist Bayonetta, and supplying her with enough firepower to weaponize a small country. God bless America. I really hope I'm pronouncing his name right, because Dave Fennoy is a national treasure, and this man needs to be protected at all costs.
Next time you want me hands on you better make sure I'm dead.
I love him. After our titular main character slips into something a bit more comfortable, we are propelled straight into combat. One of the first things you'll learn about Bayonetta is that combat is not about surviving like in other games where you start off really weak and slowly become more and more powerful. Bayonetta is already quite a capable woman who can easily overpower her prey without so much as a scratch if you know what you're doing. No, your real goal is to whoop your opponent's ass in the most over-the-top, flashy, most ridiculous way possible, posing for the camera and getting the highest score to prove it. There is so much you can do in combat that I don't think I'd be able to list everything, but we can sure give it a shot. Bayonetta has more combos than a McDonald's drive-thru, consisting mainly of your punch and kick buttons. As you complete combos, you'll be able to summon demons using her hair as a weapon called a Wicked Weave attack. You can also launch enemies in the air to do some sick juggling. There is a dedicated shooting button where Bayonetta uses all 4 of her guns, yes you heard me the first time, that she can use for range attacks and smaller enemies. As you get further into the story, you'll unlock weapons that you can equip that can totally change your playstyle. Some of these being an absolute badass katana that decimates anything that moves, a whip that has some good range and can grapple enemies, elemental claws that are a bit slow but pack a heavy punch, and ice skates.
She's elegant and taste. She's Miss United States.
You can even wield some of the weapons that the angels will drop to really make them regret their career prospects. Rodin has a bar called the Gates of Hell. Using the halos that drop from enemies after defeat, you can buy even more moves and combos, like an air dodge, breakdancing, even a homing attack. My suggestion would be to buy all these moves as soon as possible, but we have to move on because we're still not done. If you're paying close attention and are consistently beating the crap out of enemies, you'll start picking up these little doodads that will begin filling your magic gauge. Once it's full, you'll be able to do a torture attack against one enemy. One being the important word there. Torture attacks can do a crap ton of damage, but that all depends on how well you hit the button prompt that will appear at the bottom of the screen, and then boom, you did the thing. Good job. I would suggest holding this power until you roll up on a bigger enemy, but if you get hit, you'll lose points from the magic gauge, so just keep that in mind. I mean, come on, we're all adults here. I trust you can make your own decisions in life. And last but certainly not least, we have Witch Time. When you dodge an enemy attack at just the last second, you'll activate a move called Witch Time, where time will slow down around you, giving you an opportunity to take off the gloves and really show them who's boss. This is my favorite move to use, just because it gives you ample enough time to straight up annihilate your opponents, while also making you look like you're good at games. Whew, alright. Let's never do that again. So yeah, that's all I can think of right now. All of these techniques are awesome in their own right, but stringing them all together is so intuitively smooth that it's really hard not to feel like an absolute badass. So, getting back to the story, after dispatching the angels and accidentally destroying Enzo's car with a face that says "I got caught stealing snacks at 3 a.m., we drive off and are given a bit of insight into Bayonetta's situation. Enzo starts rattling exposition at Bayonetta like she doesn't already know this, but what we can gather is that Bayonetta is an Umbran witch that up until 20 years ago was sleeping at the bottom of a lake in a coffin. She's got a bit of a memory problem and doesn't know who she is or why she was put in that casket to begin with. What she does know, however, is that she has to keep sacrificing angels to appease her infernal patrons so that she doesn't get dragged down to hell herself. In this world, there is Inferno, which is the land of demons, Paradiso, realm of the angels, and Purgatorio, which is a world parallel to us where Bayonetta fights all the angels, hence why Enzo couldn't see them fighting in the graveyard. He assures her that he has info on a particular stone that may somehow be connected to her past, but not before Here we are introduced to Jeanne, an Umbran witch herself that Bayonetta has some memory of, but not for the best reasons. Their brief encounter can be pretty much summed up in,
Your powers are weak, old man.
Get fucked!
and then some nice fighting choreography, and then bam! Anyways, as we begin our adventure to the fictional European country of Vigrid, Enzo explains that an artifact called the Right Eye has gone for sale on the black market that is a part of a set called the Eyes of the World. Upon her arrival, she is bombarded by a voice in her head stating that it is time to awaken the eyes and that no harm shall come to her. Disembarking from the train, we enter Vigrid.
Material world. I want Chanel 9 boots. saw these niggas steady jocking cause they know I'm the truth.
Think of this place as like the Roman Catholic Church on steroids. The details in architecture and scenery are very much inspired from Roman Catholicism, from the white spiraling tower to the gold trimmings and even the stained glass windows. What's really cool, but I've never noticed up until this last playthrough, is the mixture between old ancient architecture and modern sensibility and technology. This brilliantly parallels real locations in our current day world, which helps in making Vigrid feel like a real country you can go to, and it really helps give this game a unique style. Speaking of style, this game is a spectacle in every sense of the word. Bayonetta herself exudes charm and charisma. She's like that friend that is so confident in herself that she makes people more confident just by being around her. Just looking at the details that go into her witchiness really shows how much thought and effort really went into her character design. From the hair being a conduit to summon demons, to her beehive hairstyle reminiscent of a witch's hat, to her shadow casting the silhouette of a butterfly in reference to her pact with the demon Madame Butterfly. She's even reading text upside down. Oh, wait, that might be a mistake. Get the fuck out of here. She's fun, she's optimistic, she's even a little campy in some of her mannerisms.
I feel like a fucking celebrity in this town.
But most importantly, Bayonetta is self-aware of her ridiculousness. So you may have noticed the game's unorthodox way of portraying its leading lady. This game, when it first came out, dealt with some pretty heavy controversy on how women were being portrayed in media, but more importantly on how they were being portrayed in video games. And I'll admit, there are some cutscenes that will play out and I'm just like, how did they get away with this?
Damn! Let me see her feet!
But the most important distinction to make between games like Bayonetta versus other games that were coming out at the time is in their presentation. Bayonetta may be an over-the-top and overly sexualized female character, but she owns every second of it. No matter what's happening, she is in complete control of her surroundings and she's having fun, which makes me feel like I'm having fun. This is in complete contrast to other females coming out at the time, say Ruby from Wet. Does anyone remember Wet?
I think the fuck not.
With all the charm of a country hick loitering at a gas station, and a personality I can only describe as smug boredom, Ruby is fucking doll. She really does feel like a character made by men for men, whereas Bayonetta was actually designed by a woman, Mari Shimazaki, and her sexuality complements her character rather than detracts from it. So what I'm trying to say in summary is that every woman, including myself, feels empowered in different ways. Bayonetta is a sexual character, but that is an extension of her personality, and she is in control of her image at all times. And for me, as a woman who loves to embrace her girly side and wants to be seen as cool and sexy, I can relate to her wholeheartedly. Alright, ran over. Let's get back on track, shall we? As stated by Rodan, Vigrid is a holy city-state and is closer to Paradiso than most other towns, so lots of angels start showing up ready to gank Bayonetta on arrival. Oh, that's another thing I wanted to talk about. The angel designs are some of the best you'll find in modern gaming, bar none. With a design I can only describe as biblically accurate, they borrow a lot from ancient marble statues and have an otherworldly, terrifying presence to them, which is maybe why they had to preface to everyone in the Bible with, "Do not be afraid." Some of my favorite enemies to fight were the Fairness and Fearless, Grace and Glory, the car, the camera sometimes, holy shit. Oh, and of course the Joy enemies. I will say that aside from the couple of enemies you're introduced to at the beginning of the game, most of the enemies are a bit over-designed.
What the hell is this?
I bring this up because sometimes it's hard to tell whether or not an enemy is planning on attacking you or was just waving its arm to hail a cab. So dodging a foe that you only just met and not knowing what its attack patterns look like, my footage came out looking like I was trying out for the Olympics.
I'm fast as fuck, boy.
During Chapter 1, you'll come across some big boy bosses and will be introduced to climax moves. Obligatory sex joke here. These are finishing moves that will have Bayonetta using her hair to summon a demon to vanquish her foes in spectacular and brutal fashion. There are a couple different demons that Bayo will summon, all with really unique and eye-catching designs, but can't look now, gotta press X! Okay, I'll say it. The game's not perfect.
Cut the cameras. Deadass.
Like I said, this game did release back in 2009, or as I would like to call it, the Dark Ages.
But why? Why'd you have to do that? We didn't ask. Shawty, we didn't ask.
I swear every game that came out on the PS3 and Xbox 360 had this drab, washed out color story that even looking back at some 7th gen titles makes me irrationally annoyed. This also influenced Bayonetta's color palette in certain areas, but was thankfully rectified in Bayonetta 2. I should also mention the QTEs, or quick time events for all those who don't know. All 4 of you. Personally, I don't mind QTEs, but I can see why some people believe that they interrupt gameplay, or that they're just downright annoying and unnecessary. Even though I nearly broke my controller in half a couple of times, mashing the button prompt to get a better high score, I didn't really mind it because it kept me engaged during the takedown moves. Now as for the cutscenes, they're in game too, and if you're not paying attention, you might get a prompt in. Whoops. Anyways, back to business. As you continue to explore Vigrid, you'll see these statues sprinkled around town. These are the remnants of the long-forgotten clans of the Lumen Sages, the Followers of Light, and the Umbra Witches, Followers of Darkness. 500 years ago, these two clans lived in peace and even respected each other as they possessed the artifacts called the Eyes of the World. The Lumen Sages held the right eye of light, and the Umbra the left eye of darkness. Together they were seen as the overseers of history. That peace was shattered, however, when a Lumen Sage fell in love with an Umbra Witch, and together they conceived a child. This violated an ancient law that stated that the intersection of light and dark would bring calamity to this earth. This was the beginning of the clan wars, both sides fighting over dominance of the eyes. Despite the sages' best efforts, the witches conducted secretive assaults and annihilated the followers of light, killing all but one. However, victory was short-lived as the humans feared the dark power of the Umbra and began a campaign called the Witch Hunts. The Umbra, weak from the clan wars, were flushed out and eliminated off the face of the earth, just like their brothers in light. Even today, you can see the statues of the Umbra are shattered due to the fear the humans still hold over the witches, while the statues of the sages still stand. Speaking of the past, we bump into Jeanne, chortling behind her hand and teasing us for forgetting our past, the fucking hussy. This triggers another flashback where I fully get my ass handed to me.
If suffering is to be regarded seriously.
But also a bit of insight on Bayonetta once being an outcast to her clan, and her and John maybe being friends in another lifetime. After the flashback, we are introduced to a brand new character, Luca. Even though he has some of the best physical comedy in the game, this clip never fails to crack me up, it doesn't take long for him to get on my fucking tit. He's a journalist that has been following a girl since the beginning of the game, as 20 years earlier, he witnessed his father's brutal murder at what appears to be the hand of Bayonetta. Father! Father! Even though his obsession is justified with the information that we are given at the time, he sounds like he's just trying to break a massive story rather than, oh, I don't know, confront the person he believes killed his dad. He gets better with more time spent with Bayonetta, but for the majority of my playthrough, he just feels unnecessary. Rolling back to the comedy real quick, this game is just fucking funny, man. Playing into Bayonetta's wacky, campy, tongue-in-cheek vibe, the physical comedy and writing are really on point here. Not to mention the delivery from the voice actors. Helena Taylor, who plays Bayonetta, is a real gem who pulls off posh and uptight while also being flirty and mischievous.
If you get in my way, I will... How do the Americans put it? Oh yes, bust a cap in your ass.
Right on, baby. Right on.
I love her. This can be seen in her banter with some of the boss angels in this game. These all-powerful beings all like, "How do you do, my fair lady?" And Bayo's all like,
Mark off, featherface.
As we continue on, we meet a small girl wandering around a church who looks awfully similar to our main heroine. But before we can unpack that bag of chips, Bayo has another flashback to a woman behind bars singing Fly Me to the Moon to the same young child. Which is a brilliant transition into talking about the music in this game. Woo! This game's soundtrack has a wonderfully light-hearted, funky, jazzy composition, and is an absolute certified hood classic. Tracks like Let's Dance Boys, Mysterious Destiny, and of course Fly Me to the Moon are all so optimistic and feminine that I believe it is impossible not to feel confident. It's catchy as hell too. I'll just be minding my business, doing the dishes, and then bum 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 do 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 do. Anywho's, after having a bit of a scuff with the upside down turkey man, he has a big old hissy fit and decides to engulf the town with lava to flush Bayonetta out. You know, for a second there, I felt bad for them. They're just minding their own business, then Bayonetta comes along to drag them to hell. But this is uncalled for. I'll take my sympathy back now. Thank you. Thankfully, we get out pretty unscathed. I never said I was perfect. As we reunite with Featherface and fight him for reals this time. So I like the boss battles in this game, but again, the enemies are crazy over-designed and it's hard to tell what you're supposed to do. But once you do figure it out, keep doing it. Aside from the human bosses like John that are a test of skill and paying attention to your enemy's moves, these giant angel bosses are segmented into different parts that you need to destroy. And then once you have them literally on their last legs, you wail on them until you get that sweet, sweet button prompt. Nothing crazy special, but boy is it good footage. Leaving the ruins to find ourselves in more ruins.
Well, if I wanted to see ruins, I would have stayed in my first marriage.
We find Luca doing whatever Luca does.
Which is a shame, because the truth is always going to be the truth. The real is the truth. The truth is, you killed my father. They can't reject the truth. The truth will set me free from your black stain on my life. The truth will allow me to expose you to the world. Then, I'll have won.
We also find Jean, who apparently is working with the angels. Okay. Alright, so I would say around Chapter 5 is when the game stops fucking around. The difficulty really begins to spike right here, and if you're not paying attention, you'll be seeing this screen a lot. Now, I haven't mentioned it up till now, but Bayonetta's story is split into chapters. At the end of each chapter, you'll be given a score based on your combos, how many times you died, and if you used any items. Now, my score doesn't look too bad, but this is my second time around beating the game on normal mode, but believe me when I say that Bayonetta has no qualms in pointing out how much you suck and rubbing your face in it. The game will take you anywhere between 10 to 12 hours to finish, so even though the story is relatively short, Bayonetta has tons of replay value with trying to beat your score and trying to prove to yourself that you're good at games. Like me, that's what I do in my free time. Anywho, after Bayonetta and Jean get done slapping each other's titties, we discover that we can shapeshift into different animal forms, giving us greater mobility and also looking super cool. We stumble across that little girl we met back in Vigrid, and she introduces herself as Cereza. Bayonetta, not wanting to leave her defenseless, reluctantly decides to let her tag along. Funnily enough, Cereza is for some reason insistent on calling Bayonetta Mummy, which I'm sure we were already doing. Mummy, 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 mummy. The one good thing I could say about Luca is that for the majority of the game, he's taking care of Cereza, while Bayonetta is doing all the big girl work. But if the biggest compliment I can give to a character is that he's a really good babysitter, that's probably not a good sign. After defeating another one of the angels and his gross noodle fingers, we find ourselves on the highway. Falling close behind Cereza and Luca, Bayonetta sprints after the pair, and heals of course. The motorcycle section is fine, but it goes on for like 5 minutes too long, and after that it gets a bit tedious. Also, the dodge sound effect. Bayonetta is then teleported to Paradiso, and even though I don't really care for these levels all that much, the game designers really got to flex their creative muscles. This place looks gorgeous. This is also where you'll meet Gracious and Glorious. I bring these guys up because they are immune to witch time, and if you were relying on that skill the entire game, like I was, you're going to have a real bad time.
Oh my god. Oh my god, he on X Games mode.
Also, the golem fight is one of my favorites, just for the climax finisher. This game really does get what it's doing, and I appreciate that. Catching back up with Luca and Cereza, we see them bonding over some lollipops.
Here, I've got some candy if you want.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Putting the combat aside, this game really does have some sweet character interactions, especially between Bayonetta and Cereza. Watching Cereza idolize Bayonetta and even imitating some of her mannerisms is really cute and pretty realistic for a child who wants to be more like their hero. Even Bayonetta begins to develop feelings for the little girl, even taking on a more maternal role and ensuring no harm comes to her. It shows that Bayonetta is a more multifaceted woman than what she projects at the surface level, and that just makes her all the more enjoyable to me. After that, we are treated to I haven't mentioned it up until now, but before the bosses are dragged into Inferno, they rattle off some sort of prophecy of the awakening of the left eye and the coming of a being called Jubileus, repeating what the voice in Bayonetta's head has been foreshadowing. Upon dispatching the angel, we get to see more of Cereza and Bayonetta's relationship, when it turns out the little girl also has an Umbran watch. Throughout the story, Cereza has been able to see into Purgatorio and can even do a couple of minor spells, helping Luca see the angels fighting Bayonetta. On top of also having black hair, glasses, and red ribbons, the game obviously has a mystery that they want to play out, but they don't do a good job at hiding who this child is. While trying to board a plane, the group is attacked and Cereza slips into the plane. Oh come on, at least pretend like you're a little worried, man. Unsurprisingly, Jean is behind the attack and teases Bayonetta for her attachment to the girl. During their slap fight, Jean challenges Bayonetta to prove she is worthy enough to inherit the left eye. Oh, nice ride.
Deja vu, I just been in this place before. Higher on the street and I know it's my time to go.
Returning to somewhat solid ground, we fight my favorite boss. I mean, how many games have you surfing in a giant whirlpool dodging laser tentacles? This is also the only level I have ever gotten a platinum trophy on.
I should have been a pole dancer.
After that victory round, the trio make their way towards the island of Isla del Sol to finally retrieve the eyes of the world. You know, the whole reason we traveled to Vigrid in the first place. But not before they are attacked in the sky by more angels, leading into a mission with Bayonetta riding a giant missile. I hate this section. It's not really the game's fault, the controls are perfectly fine, when you aren't dodging, that is. Upon our arrival, we are once again greeted by Jean, who is prepared to blow up the island to prevent us from reaching the right eye. But not before Luca snatches the control switch and begins to drive off, but has seemingly blown himself up. Uh-oh. Here begins our final battle with Jean, revealing her most powerful form. This is the ultimate test of your skills up until this moment, and you have to be in her face 100% of the time. Unless you like having your face stomped into the ground, which, you know, live your life, have fun, go for it. As Jean lay weak and immobilized on the ground, Bayonetta hands her the jewel from her Umbran watch, triggering another flashback. Bayonetta and Jean were indeed friends in the past, and to protect her friend in the left eye from falling into the hands of the enemy, she sealed Bayonetta inside the red gem and hid her at the bottom of the lake, 500 years ago. Finally reunited with her long-lost companion, Jean calls Bayonetta by the name of Cereza.
Y'all hear something? No. Hell no. I'm Helen Keller in this bitch.
Jean then pushes Bayonetta out of the way, sending her flying into an adjacent building before missiles come crashing down. Ah shit, all my friends are dead. Except, not really. Apparently he grappled to safety just in case because...
You didn't expect me to trust bitches.
Suddenly, Cereza runs to the entrance to the tower because she too can hear the voice speaking to Bayonetta, calling him Daddy. At the end of the tower, Bayonetta is then confronted by her father, the Lumen Sage who was exiled 500 years prior. He has manipulated Bayonetta into coming here to reunite the eyes of the world, but as it turns out, the eyes are not these little doodads, but the Lumen Sage and Bayonetta themselves. Every plot twist that was slightly obvious is now brought forth. Luca's dad was killed by angels, Bayonetta was the forbidden child conceived between the two clans, Cereza is Bayonetta. The only thing that really comes out of left field is that Jean was apparently being mind controlled this entire time, so that's kind of weird. Also, Luca is thrown out the building apparently.
Well, I guess my plan has gone right out the window.
Father Boulder then fuses with Cereza.
How you doing? Alright, how have a seat over in that chair, please.
Which initiates a boss fight. The ensuing fight with Father Boulder is alright. His angelic design is really striking, especially with the peacock feathers emulating wings, and the fact that he starts killing your demon summons. But for some reason, even though he telegraphs his moves, I still have a hard time dodging half his shit. But in the end, Bayonetta gets the upper hand and shoots him with a lipstick bullet.
Don't fuck with a witch.
Talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping.
After defeating Boulder, we transport Cereza back to her time. Also, Luca's alive.
I've got to give you credit, Bayonetta. You never cease to impress.
Turns out the Lumen Sage is still alive and captures Bayonetta to awaken the eyes of the world and summon Jubileus the Creator. But Jean is like, fuck that. Also, she's alive. Apparently, the jewel Bayonetta handed her broke her free of her mind control, because it can do that. I think. On her motorcycle, Jean leaps aboard the Lumen Sage's tower as it turns into a rocket making its way into space. Yeah, I give up, I don't even know anymore. She quickly rescues Bayonetta, freeing her from the statue of Jubileus, and then floats off to space and dies.
Oh, she passed away? Oh. Alright.
Jubileus is then reborn at half power due to Father Boulder still being trapped inside. The scope and scale of this battle alone feels like the perfect conclusion to everything leading up to this moment. And the design of Jubileus is so grandiose and opulent. Also maybe a bit of Babylonian inspiration, maybe. And the music, ugh. Even though Fly Me to the Moon has played throughout the story, it just hits different here, man. She's not as tough as, say, John, but she's definitely a climactic final boss. If she would stop turning me into a baby, that'd be great too. Speaking of climactic, Bayonetta summons the infernal equivalent of Jubileus, Queen Sheba, who's so powerful that she literally punches the soul from her body to collide with the sun. Credits roll. Okay. Hey, Jean's back. Hooray. But the fight's not over yet. The statue that housed the soul of Jubileus is still plummeting towards Earth, and it's up to the girls to destroy it. The witches have a touching scene, harkening back to the intro cinematic at the beginning of the game. Cut to a few days later, and the funeral is taking place in respect for Bayonetta. But like, come on. And then boom! Angels descend from heaven, and Jean and Bayonetta are back in action. Cause as they say,
As long as there's music, I'll keep on dancing.
and then bam! Credits roll. And that was the story of Bayonetta. Admittedly, probably Bayonetta's weakest aspect. It's somehow nonsensical while at the same time being too predictable. And whenever you're messing with time travel, unless you have some really solid rules in place, it doesn't take much for your plot to get convoluted and messy. Even though the story kind of falls flat in execution, the gameplay makes up for everything tenfold. It's addictive, rewarding, and there's so much room for experimentation that I'm sure there are still things that I haven't even discovered how to do yet. This game is an absolute wholehearted recommendation from me to you, even if you don't think this game is up your alley. I didn't think this game was for me either when I first picked it up, but well, look at me now. You can buy this game on any console under the sun, and it's pretty cheap on Steam, so what do you have to lose? Oh hey Vanquish.
All around me are familiar faces.
Thank you all so much for watching. If you like what you see here, please leave a like and comment, and let me know what you'd like to see next. Here's to another good year, and I'll see you all next time. Kisses!